G'day, mate, and welcome to Friday Facts 357, just titled Nuke. But it's got some blueprints and some other things in there as well, but more importantly, I've got a Mojo with me. Hey, mate.
Hi.
You finally got your intro. So, this has got some finishing touches about the blueprint library, which didn't come out on Tuesday. Surprise, surprise.
Yes. Didn't even expect these.
No, didn't expect these, and there are some important parts about the blueprint library that I guess everybody would have wanted had they thought about it, but people haven't thought about it, obviously. So, we have Blueprint Library finishing touches by Kovric. So, persistent library contents. Problem is an old one. You play a modded game where you have your blueprints library, then you decide to put the mods aside for a reason, join a multiplayer game, or just try a different mod set. At that moment, if we didn't handle them in a special way, all your mod-related content in your blueprint library would be removed, and both myself and Mojo remember this.
Yes, back in version 15 and to a lesser extent 16. I don't remember when exactly it was fixed.
It was fixed along the way, but when blueprints first came out, it was like, no. If you want to have blueprints and you want to play a modified game, have a standalone install. Just have a standalone install.
It was a lot easier, or just back up your blueprint library.
Yeah, but then you'd have
export your strings or back up your blueprint game file.
Yeah, but then you'd always have the problem of trying to, if you were backing up the blueprint.dat file, you'd always have problems of like which dat file goes with which mod set if you didn't name them correctly. Yeah, that's when I started doing multi-installs, and I haven't changed since. I still have like 10, probably 18 different versions of 18 installed. So yeah, it's just, I find it easier.
I tended just to back up the actual string if I needed it that much.
I have some strings I've backed up. They're mainly ones I've shared. And funnily enough, I generally go to my own YouTube videos to find the shared links, even though they're on my computer in my Google Drive. At least I know what video they're on, whereas in my Google Drive, in theory, it'd be neat and tidy because it's stored in the cloud and you should put in the effort, but yeah, I'm a bit of a mess. So,
a bit.
Yeah, we're going to leave that there. So, they did solve the problem originally, but with the upcoming support of other tools in the Blueprint Library, being the Upgrade Planner, the Deconstruction Planner, they had to extend the special system they created for those original things. So the preview icons of Blueprint tools, the filters of the Deconstruction Planner, and the upgrade specification of the Upgrade Planner. Because currently I'm playing with Factorio Extended, and you've played with it yourself, where you go red, yellow, blue, green, purple belts.
Yep.
And I have upgrade planners that just, like, anything less than purple, just take it to purple. And obviously, if I went and played a different mod set and I lost my upgrade planner, it'd be annoying. I could rebuild it, but if I did it a few times, it'd be really annoying. So yeah, they've preemptively accounted for that. The tool can still be normally used. Oh, well, hang on. So what they do is they save the ID for these items in the blueprint string, I guess is probably the best way of putting it, or the blueprint entity.
In the blueprint itself. In part of what encodes the blueprint.
Yeah, and these items are marked as unknown with pretty little question marks, and the original text representation of the IDs is stored as a special way. So the tool can still be normally used. So if I have which I think I've used one during the series, it's a yellow to red, and then if I swipe it again, it goes red to blue. If I swipe it again, it goes blue to green, and I swipe it again, it goes green to purple. I can still use the first three because they're vanilla, but the ones above and beyond that, yeah, they just sit there as question marks. So that's fine, I guess. I'm glad they thought about it. And yeah, you can see you have this would be my purple belt upgrader. Actually, this is using a different mod set, but same story. It's yellow to whatever the top level belt is, red to the top level, blue to the top level, more belts to the top level. So yeah, and after you go back and reinstall that mod, voila, all the pictures come back and it starts working properly, which is great.
Assuming the items actually line up.
Well, I don't see
because that's happened to me before where the items didn't line up, and so it was just permanently lost forever. It was permanently question marked.
Maybe if a mod changed something between updates?
It's usually between mod updates that happens.
Yeah.
I have a lot of problems. I've had a lot of problems with mod blueprints losing their items along the way or losing settings along the way.
This is why, funnily enough, I'm happy to share certain vanilla prints. Like, I'm always happy to share a blueprint once I'm done with it. Once I'm like, I've built this 10, 20, 30 times. I've improved this as much as I'm possibly going to. That's it, I'm done with it. But when it comes to modded content, like, unless you're
It's a pain
playing
in the ass to maintain it.
well, that, unless you're playing a well-maintained mod that's been around for a long time, there's a chance it might just disappear. There are mods that were all the rage, what, a year ago, that just
Yeah,
don't
even a year
exist
ago,
anymore.
they're gone now. Yeah, like there are mods which are holding people back to version 16, even not even
Yeah.
like there are some people stuck on 17
Yeah, well,
for their mod packs.
17 and probably even some people stuck on 16. I remember not that long ago, well after 18 was out and had gone through a number of revisions, I saw somebody post they'd finally finished their current playthrough on 16 on Reddit. And we were up to like 18, 20, I want to say.
Yeah.
And that would frustrate me, but there are just some mods that just don't get updated. And yeah. So, a long list of upgrades. The UI of the upgrade blueprints with the upgrade planner was meant to be provisional, but somehow remain in use for quite some time. Because we got the upgraded planner in 16. Yes,
Yep.
It went from a mod to part of vanilla. And this has been one of my frustrations with upgrade planner. So the upgrade planner you can use to upgrade a blueprint. The catch is, and I didn't even realize you could do it this way, the only way to use it is to click the button with an upgrade planner in your cursor, which is quite annoying. And as you don't have access to your inventory or blueprint library when you want to click the button, so you have to close the window, find the upgrade planner you want to use, open the window with the upgrade planner or in the cursor, and then use it. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could open a blueprint with an upgrade planner in my cursor. I've always put the blueprint.
You got to play UI juggling, but you can do it.
I've always put the upgrade planner in my toolbar, open the blueprint I wanted, but then because the upgrade planner is my toolbar, I can access it and then upgrade just the blueprint I want. So yeah, they thoroughly redid this entirely. So with this, this window is created. When you click the upgrade window, the game searches all the upgrade planners available to you, inventory and blueprint library, and lets you select which one, and always offers the default upgrade planner, which I love. It means I can have my, just basically as part of a blueprint book, a yellow to red and a red to blue, and it means it's automatically going to go find it for me, along with, they've got one there, modules, tier 1 to tier 2, and probably a tier 2 to a tier 3. I'm going to have a couple of upgrade planners just in a book that I don't use, it just lives in my library, for just upgrading other blueprints that I've pulled out of my library to use for this particular playthrough, like upgrading yellow to red and red to blue and that sort of stuff. So yeah, great change, but they also added, if you left click to apply the upgrade, so yellow to red, but if you right click it, it'll downgrade it. So you can go from red belt back to yellow belt, which is a big thing. Previously,
that is actually, yes, a big thing, because quite often I'd have to rejig it to go back the other way for whatever reason. There's usually a specific, it's not a very common case to need it, but it's occasionally you do need it.
I find it with modules, like if I end up short of one particular module set, I might downgrade something that's not running and running full speed. I might downgrade like prod mod 3s back to prod mod 1s because I've got lots of 1s, but I don't have any 3s.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you'd use it on.
Yeah, and same with belts. Like I might have upgraded my, my balancer, for argument's sake, from yellow to red belt and then red to blue belt, and then be stuck at an outpost that's only got red belt on me, and I'm like, okay, well, I obviously need to do a balancer out of red belt, so a balancer out of red belt it is. I need to downgrade my, balancer. Obviously, a balancer is something I build from memory, but 8 balance, I can't build that from memory. So yeah, I've had to use it myself, just to downgrade things. And the simple fact now that we just left click, right click, that's amazing. I'm surprised nobody thought of this, or I'm surprised this wasn't suggested and we didn't read about this last week. It's one of those small things that just makes a massive difference.
Yeah. It's certainly something that I knew, I was aware of, as I say, like I used the UI juggling previously, But the way I set up the blueprints is so that I don't need the upgrade planner generally.
And you mentioned it last week, that there's lots of blueprint books like I think Bilke's Ultimate Belt Balancer, which I'm not a fan of. It comes with all the combinations 1 to 8 belts.
Yeah, it comes with all of them. I'm not a fan of that one either.
For yellow,
there's a few compilations, and the balance is horrible.
Yeah, look, the thing that really got me is it's either one giant book for all the yellow, all the red, and all the blue, or it's 3 separate books, and people are downloading 3 copies of the same blueprints in 3 different varieties rather than just use an upgrade planner. Use an upgrade planner.
What I would do is, for that sort of thing, what I'd do is just have the one and then use the upgrade planner.
Yeah, and look,
just do the UI juggling.
Look, I've done it before. I've blueprinted something down in yellow belt, and then whilst the ghosts are there, just thrown the upgrade planner over it, bang, it's now red, thrown over a second time, bang, the ghosts are now blue, and then suddenly gets built, because we're past yellow belt at this base, you know.
Yeah. Generally, at the point of the game, you're going to be building, no matter what, you're going to be building red, and then at another point, no matter what, you're going to be building blue.
Yeah, you go through those 3 stages where yellow belt for everything, then red belt for everything, and then if you continue with the belt base, it ends up being it's blue everything. We just don't care about costs anymore. So the other thing they do mention is the problem is you can already do 3 kinds of thing with the upgrade planner blueprint tools, or deconstruction planner. Yes, that quite a lot of people don't know about basic things you do, like cancelling a deconstruction orders or force building a blueprint, because that we added the instructions to every tool so users won't miss it. Again, small UI thing, but it was just missing. So yeah, left click and drag to upgrade with an upgrade planner, right click and drag to downgrade, that's new, and shift left click to drag to cancel upgrade orders. A lot of people don't know that, and I've done it hundreds of times with a decon planner, that you can mark something for deconstruction, and before we had an undo command, you could actually cancel a deconstruction command by holding down shift and selecting the same area, and all the decon markers would go away. So again, small improvement, big one nonetheless. And then we get on to snapping, which is a feature that Mojo's been waiting for, been dreading a bit of both.
Yeah.
Okay, so snapping, the first problem was related to build and drag with blueprints. Most of the blueprints don't work that well, and you just end up
it just paints a mess. It's
if you've ever, and I've done it so many times because I got used to clicking and holding with a power pole and running, or with a roboport, or with an assembler, or with anything, and now I do it with a blueprint that has like a couple of assemblers, with a couple of inserters, with belts on the outside, and I click and drag and run, and then I look at what's behind me, I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. So, what they've done is so the second blueprint's often designed to work in a grid. That's another thing that a lot of people have done. They've made on-grid train track networks, but there's no real easy way to enforce it. Either you have to build slowly and cautiously, or you misclick often. With the new feature of building the map, the problem is just elevated. This is what the second checkbox is for. It forces the blueprint to build on a grid aligned to map center. So we'll cover that in a sec. You have your train network blueprints, which I admit I use. They're absolutely brilliant. Yeah, look.
And anyone who isn't, you should.
Mojo's done a really good job of making really good train blueprints. And the easiest way to use them is they come with a power pole down the middle of the train tracks. Just line up the power poles. As long as you line up the power poles, they work
will always work.
And on top of that, when you put down the first train track to the last train track, you can have it loop back on itself. You can do this, you can do that. As long as you've kept lining up those power poles, if you
it'll always connect
back on itself, it connects back into itself perfectly every time. I have no idea how many hours went into the creation, but I know you're on version 3, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't even count in all the minor incrementals. It also doesn't count all of the geometry calculations that went into the curves initially.
Yeah,
the curves actually took ages for me to make. It was easy to make I made all the junctions and then made the curves.
Yeah, because the curves, again, they're weird. They're little, 45-degree turns? Yeah, 45-degree turns.
Yeah, they're 45-degree turns.
And you've got to put 2 of them together to get a 90-degree turn. So yeah. But yeah, they've added this lovely feature. So we now have a snap to grid with a grid size for the blueprint and absolute reference point. which is a little bit weird. So it says to ensure the user can configure individual blueprints in a way that they would match perfectly, the relative position of the blueprint to the grid can be configured by moving the red flag. So we've got this little red flag in the middle on the big power pole. Obviously, this is designed to go right in the middle of a grid or of a chunk, but it's 42 by 42 tiles, which is way bigger than a chunk. Although it's probably got a certain amount of overlap, so it's probably okay. But
I see what's going on. Is that they're not so much aligning it as a chunk; they're aligning it with itself. So if you hold down Shift or click and drag, it'll align to that grid that you assign to it.
oh, okay, so that makes more sense. I thought it was aligned to the base grid underneath Factorio and the chunks. Okay, so it should align to itself. So that means you can't
Yeah,
place
so it has its own relative alignment grid.
So you can't place another one until you're 42 tiles center
Yeah.
on center.
Yeah, that's how I understand it.
I think that's still going to be a problem. Because in that case, these power poles at the edges wouldn't overlap with the next train section.
Well, you can arbitrarily set the grid size. So it says 42 by 42, but you can. It looks
Build
like you can
past them.
type in your own.
Okay.
You can type in your
Yeah,
own
it
values,
sort of looks like
but we'll see.
Blue markers sort of right in the middle of the power pole. Okay, maybe they've built the blueprints bigger than 42 by 42. Obviously, we don't have a grid here. We don't have the blueprint. We can't play with it. But yeah, like it sounds like a good idea. It's one of those ones I have to see it in game. I think I like the idea. I know Mojo when the feature comes out, so maybe on day one, probably on day two, day two of Factor. Actually, it could be his first stream, right? Reconfiguring Mojo's train blueprints. But yeah, I can definitely see that a lot of people are going to make use of this. I've seen, especially the train networks. I've seen Mojo's ones, but I've also seen ones that like have solar built in. They have laser walls built in. They have this, that, and they have everything else. Same story also applies to just simple things like green circuits, gears, those sorts of things. If you can
Anything
turn this feature
repeatable.
on, yeah, anything repeatable, which means you could then turn your base much more into being fairly careful where you're putting things to just a click, drag, and run, which is going to mean more horrible people using crappy blueprints that they can click, drag, and run and not understanding how the blueprints work or how the game works. But that's just something we've accepted with blueprints as the game has moved on. And in that said, moving on, we actually have a lovely demo here. Yeah, this blueprint is definitely overlapping on the edges on map view. So I'm assuming it's bigger than the 42 by 42. But then we have Nukes. And this is somewhat interesting, somewhat different. They've basically updated the Nuke graphic entirely.
This is something I actually forgot about as well, but they did say they were going to work on.
I don't remember them saying they were going to work on it.
Quite a while ago, they were going to update the visuals of it.
Because I remember the particle effects, which came down to flamethrowers and all that sort of stuff. And by then, we were doing these weekly Friday Facts videos. I don't remember Nukes coming up. But I do remember...
At one point in passing with the particle effects, it was mentioned.
Okay, I do remember the nukes I had in Bite of Hell, and I can happily say that these lovely nuke effects we have look like the ones I had in the Bite of Hell series, but we'll get there. So, since more than a year ago, Dominic's been updating and improving all kinds of visual effects, particles, splashes, explosions, so on. Most of the time we've been getting the valid question, but what about the nuke? It was planned from the start the explosion of the atomic bomb would come last, not because the lowest priority, quite the opposite. However, it's also by far the most challenging effect to both create on both technical and a graphical scale, so it kept improving how particles explosions work, experimenting with graphics for effects, essentially practicing and preparing the ground for the nuke, which is a really smart idea. Don't go with the hardest one first, go with all the easy stuff first, learn along the way, and then tackle the big project at the end. Most of the major change visually was the sheer size explosion. Normal explosions are already greatly benefit from the more flexible and various scorch marks and particles that improve the explosion sprites themselves, but that's not nearly enough here. The atomic bomb with a big explosion, they simply couldn't use, mostly because of the VRAM requirements, create an explosion sprite that would cover the whole size of a nuke, because it's 36 tiles by 36 tiles? I want to say.
Yeah, I think think it's around that. I can't remember the exact number now.
I want to say it's either 32 or 36. It's
I think it's a bit
big.
bigger than a chunk. It is actually pretty big.
Yeah. I know, like the rocket launcher. Cat, you finished? I've got a cat running through the house at full speed.
Meow meow with the zooms.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that when you carry nukes, the rocket launcher automatically gets like a 300% range bonus, because rockets normally have a range of like 35. Actually, rockets have a range of 35 and nukes have a range of 36.
Yeah, so if your maximum range shooting a nuke means you will kill yourself.
Yes. And that's why I want to say in 17, they added the range modifier that's only on nukes. So on nukes, you get 300% extra range, which means you can shoot a lot further, which means hopefully you don't die. But as we can see, we've got the pretty nuke here. Everything goes boom and everything dies very well. We've got the mushroom cloud in the middle, but it's a little bit lackluster is probably the best way of putting it.
35 is the radius of the bomb.
Okay, and the rocket launch is also 35, is it?
I believe it might actually be 36 or more, maybe even 40.
He's obviously on the wiki.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure the rocket launcher has a few tiles more because it's like 3 or 4 tiles. Like you can shoot from a fair way back.
Oh, like I said, the nuke has that 400% range modifier, which affects, means you can shoot it. If the range is 36, it's like 120 tiles. It's a lot further only with nukes, not with a normal rocket. And if nukes are 35, I think the rocket launcher is 36. So,
yeah, it's 36.
Yeah, there we go. So they tried to make the explosion as large as possible, within a resource sprite sheet, and limits frame count as much as we could, just like we did with the old days when VRAM was was much more of a concern. But the mushroom cloud does not nearly cover enough, though. So we put some of the particle effects need to be procedural. So VRAM was not only the biggest problem, it was the perspective of the square tile. So again, Factorio works on a square grid, but they've got this weird perspective where they want everything to feel like you're looking at it on a 45-degree angle, which they've done whole Friday Facts on it, and I still don't really get it.
It's their thing.
It's their thing.
You got to be consistent. So it's admirable.
Look, it seems like a mistake they made early on that's just bit them in the arse time and time again.
Yeah, the perspective has been it's probably not the best.
So yeah, they use graphics to sort of fix this and compensate for it. After discussing many real different approaches we decided to create a combination of a central sprite sheet with a shockwave of smoke being moved outward from the center, which looks okay. I've actually got to zoom out a little bit so I can fit this all on the screen at once. There we go. It looks okay. It still fades in and out at weird spots, and Mojo pointed this out, and again, I'll have to zoom back in for this.
Yeah, it's the first thing I saw.
That as things explode, the debris and everything pop out in the nuclear smoke explosion, along with all the blood effects.
There's a bit of a layering composition issue there, where the building destruction effects are appearing over the top of the clouds. Admittedly, the cloud should be appearing over the top of everything, including the worm particle effects.
Oh, the worms,
because you've got the whites, the bright,
everything.
Yeah, everything is just the blown out white and all that showing up over the top of purple, and it really stands out. Is it really dark thing or really light thing? I've been trying to, actually, since I mentioned that a few hours ago, I've been trying to figure out something else looks off with it, and I've been trying to figure out what, and I can't quite figure it out.
So I'm only on the first nuke circle, and I think it's the next one fixes it. So we tried to make the graphics high, the perspective problems as always. We made the explosion move slower vertically, resulting in a visual correct eclipse. As you can see in the animation above, this exposed the prominent entities dying in a vertical direction before the waves get to them. So we made it the damage applies slower in the vertical direction as well. It does mean you can min-max and run away vertically when shooting an atomic bomb under your feet, and you have a better chance of survival, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. So basically they've made nukes more JD safe. As long as you nuke your feet and you run north or south, you've got a better hope.
It's not a guarantee, but you got a better chance running up.
Yeah, up or down, as long as it's
Up or
away
down.
from the nuke. Yep. They also had a secondary damage radius. It was much more forgiving. You barely get hit whilst running rate. So we can see the spawner up the top right doesn't get any of the smoke effects, but it still loses a good portion of its health. So I think that's what they're referring to, and I like it because in the past, anything within that circle of smoke, explosion, fire, and damage just dead. Anything 2 tiles out of it, perfectly alive. And I do like that there's a certain amount of like damage that isn't covered by the effects and everything else. But yeah, we can see this one has the second ring looks a little bit better. I still think maybe it needs to be a bit more oval in shape. I'm sure somebody at Woob's done the maths and said, no, for our perspective count and everything else, it should be fine. But yeah, you're right. There's something not 100%. I don't know what it is, but it's not 100%.
I think with the clouds, what's going on, I suspect it was my original assertion, it's valid, is that because it's on that checkered tile, it doesn't gel with the scene properly. But
Well,
I suspect...
We've got another one. Maybe it gels better there.
Yeah.
So, for further improvement, we add a ton of random elements, how particles move, and when they disappear again, which makes the edge of the explosion less obvious, but also helps diminish the crescent-like shape at the end. The explosion is so large that we even create a scorch mark of the appropriate size for it is a problem. So Ernesters created a scorch mark as big as we could afford and added a whole new tile set for the ground zero with decoratives to smooth out the edges a little bit. And I like this. This is like, I dropped a nuke here. Again, if we go back to Bite of Hell, this is what happened in Bite of Hell. Whenever you dropped a nuke, you had a crater like this left behind. I have no idea what the mod is. Maybe I'll find it whilst I'm rendering this video and put it in the description. But they also had a radiation effect, which was really interesting because it meant that area was radiated.
That area is no longer safe for players.
It was fine in like half an hour or so. Unfortunately, I was dropping nukes all the way through my base because biters were in the middle of my base. It turns out some were immune to nukes and some of them took 10% damage of a nuke. So there was many nukes firing off, but many scorch marks through the base as well. But I love this. On top of that,
it's a great idea.
They do say the atomic explosion also destroys everything in a small radius of the center. Killed entities don't even spawn corpses. Decoratives are destroyed, so these little bits of... This is all chopped trees. Here we go. The little ferns on the right-hand side, gone. So those people who don't like them on the ground anywhere in their base, just nuke everything first.
Just nuke it, and then...
after it's done, it'll be fine. And also, it takes out
concrete
cliffs.
over it when it's done.
Well, if you concrete over it, they go away now. But more importantly, nukes take out cliffs. So we now have a proper cliff explosive.
Cliff explosive 2.0. It's too bad bots can't use these.
Give it a week, somebody will mod it. I guarantee it. Well, actually, there's enough different mods out there that let you fire nukes from artillery wagons and rockets and spaceships and everything else. Pretty sure bots don't need to carry around nukes. I'm pretty sure there's enough.
Can you imagine construction bots dropping nukes? Just picking up a nuke and dropping it.
I can.
I can imagine it being called Robot Uprising or something like that.
I think it would be better if...
Or Judgment Day.
Or if robots, construction bots, or logistics bots happen to be carrying a nuke for a completely unrelated purpose and then got taken out of the sky through, like, there's a couple of mods like Robot Attrition where they have a 5% chance of failure or something like that and they fall from the sky.
Oh, some masochist remembers version 11.
Oh, yes. There's lots of people who remember the old versions.
When bots would explode. It was before my time, but bots used to explode when they ran out of charge.
If they ran out of battery, they just blew up. It was just horrible. But yeah, like if something like that, in those particular mods, like the items drop on the ground and they're marked for deconstruction, so another bot comes and picks them up. But like, if a robot's carrying around a nuke and it sort of falls out of the sky, I'd love to see the nukes go off. So Nukes down blow up everything, which is great. The nuclear tiles remain there forever and are visible on the map view as they have their own map color. Though you can place concrete over them to hide the evidence of your actions. Nobody's going to hide it. Everyone wants to leave them. I want to see my nuke craters there forever.
So now instead of paving your base, it's now going to be nuking your base.
Oh, it just means like that's the outpost I captured. You can see it because there's big black scorch marks around the outside that warn the next wave of biters that they had neighbors. They were there. They're now not. Yeah, look, I love it. It's well overdue. It's
great, yeah.
Definitely a great feature. And they do have a lovely little video here at the end, which is everything they've done up until this point. So this is...
Yeah, all composed together.
All components together. Yeah, 7 seconds. Let's go. Yeah, it's super satisfying. It really
is.
I do love the flash. Really love the flash because that was one of the things I had in Bite of Hell. So they say, to completely effect, we add a brief over brightness to whole screen based on how far the player's screen is from the explosion, and add a sound effect which also reacts to the distance from the explosion. Again, I've had series where there was a name for better artillery sounds or something. There was a mod.
Yeah, there was a mod for better artillery sounds, which had much more impactful sounds for artillery.
Yeah, it had more impactful sounds, but on top of that, if you installed that with the atomic artillery, the two mods would work together. So if a nuke went off in the distance, you'd hear it at like 10,000 tiles away. And at 5,000 tiles, it would be a different sound. It'd be slightly larger. 2,500 tiles, it'd be again louder. And when nukes went off, you knew about it. On the other side of the base or locally. And again, just one of those small tweaks that just made the game feel better. I remember doing a whole series. I don't even remember which one it was, but I did a whole series and I love the sound in the background all the time. I loved just hearing the occasional like boom in the background. I'm like, oh, obviously some spawners went and started a new base a little bit close to like the outskirts of my base, and an artillery train, which were all automated, has already gone and dealt with it, which was just lovely to see.
Just dealt with the biters.
Yep, and it was that audible notification that's like, okay, that's another base dead. Like, if they start happening really often, then that means you're obviously pumping out a lot of pollution and the expansion parties are getting more aggressive, and you've got multiple expansion parties coming in. It probably means you need to do another cleanup. But yeah, I love that. I also love the blast of light. Again, it had nukes very similar to this in Bite of Hell. Right at the end, and it made such a difference. I admit the mod I was using, it was too bright. The whole screen went white, and you couldn't see anything, which was scary as hell for the first one. But then you get used to it. So yeah, there is one catch. There is one massive catch. You'll be able to enjoy becoming Death the Destroyer of Worlds in the new fashion on August 14th. In version 1.0. So we don't get nukes until 1.0.
Until 1.0, yep.
So you gotta wait 3 weeks, guys.
Yep. So we get the blueprint library updates presumably sooner, but the nuke isn't coming. It's coming with 1.0.
And hopefully we're gonna get the blueprint library like this week.
Yeah, in the next few days.
Because it's gonna need some testing. I know they've done their own bug testing on it. I know Boss Kid is wonderful at finding bugs, and obviously having your own QA in-house means you go, oh, I found a bug, blah, blah, you've been working on these things. This is exactly how I reproduced it. See, you can see it on my screen. And then you can both scratch your heads and sort of work out what's happening in the background and then have a spot to start from. But there's a big difference between one person in QA and having however many thousand players we currently have in Factorio, like playing with something, doing something weird, putting mods in and out of it. We find more bugs than the devs ever do, and I think that's critical for every game. But yeah, nukes are going to be one of those ones. I guess it's just a graphical change. It's not physically changing any of the underlying code. It's audio, graphics, that's it. It should be okay for 1.0. I can't see any problems, but yeah, it's risky throwing things out on release date. But with all
Yeah,
that,
they're gonna. I reckon they're gonna really make sure it's working.
I think they will, and I imagine there's well, I do know there's a certain amount of modders that have access to the source code. There is a chance that they might get some like 2 days early, 3 days early. Here's a version, go try it out, see what you think, see whether you can find any problems with the new nukes or maybe other features we've got coming, because we're 3 weeks away. We already know Friday Facts 360 is going to be, hey, 1.0 just got released 5 minutes ago. So we've got 2 more Friday Facts, but they need to write something. And I don't know what they're going to write. I can't.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I can't see them.
What the build-up is.
Yeah, I can't see them squeezing in anything else. But yeah,
They'll have something.
I hope they've got something. They've definitely been planning for this one. Because the blueprint library was intentionally posted super late last week. This one was posted early. We'll see what happens with the next 2. But yeah, with that said, I think we're out.
Yeah, I think that's almost everything. I mean, I'm expecting some kind of real curveball drop at the last minute.
For 359.
Yeah, for 359.
359 or 360. 360.
Maybe
Factorio 1.0 has been delayed.
And then just kidding or something.
Yeah, it could happen. It could happen. Like they could pull the biggest Rickroll ever and just Friday Facts just says it's delayed, and then meanwhile silently it's been released anyway. Yeah. Look, they do have 2 weeks. Yeah, there could be 1 more week of final graphics touches, final sounds, because they were still playing with the sounds, and we haven't heard anything about sounds for a little while. And then the week before, I don't know, that would be your last chance to pull some sort of Rickroll curveball. We've been holding this in our back pocket, inside the jacket sleeve, whatever, for the last few weeks, knowing that this is going to be Friday Facts 359. This is the content we're going to publish. I don't know. But I'm excited to see, waiting for next Friday Facts. With that said, we're out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed. See you guys in next week. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.